Hey, what's up guys? Chris VA Travels, about to hit the road, headed to Richmond, and I'm going to visit the Virginia History Museum. Been wanting to check this place out for a while. Figured good time to go, it's museum season. Looks really good. It goes through all of Virginia's timeline. Well, going back to the Ice Age, but all through Jamestown, Revolutionary War, Civil War, up into modern times. And I'm just going to stick with the main portion. I think they call it the North Gallery. There are other things to see. I know they've got a entire section dedicated to the industries in the different regions of the state, the Shenandoah, Tidewater, Piedmont, but I don't want this video to be 2 hours long, so I'll just stick with the straight history. I'll also let you know tickets are $15. And then want to give a shout out to Stacy. I appreciate your support. She has some of her homeschool students that watch my channel. How cool is that? So anyway, you're gonna hit the road and we'll check this place out. Yeah, here we are, fancy building. I see they've got a cafe right there. So first thing, I might grab something to eat. And yeah, see what's inside this thing. I'll tell you, they're open daily, Monday through Sunday, 10 until 5. Pushed to open. Got an old coach right here, going back to 1860. Pretty nice one. See the step up down here. That's how you open the door right there. Kind of turn and pull, it looks like. And these lamps, I guess the headlights of the time. Obviously the coachman sat right there. And check out these shocks. This was owned by Alexander Glasgow. And I think it was actually made in New Haven, Connecticut. Pretty cool. Oh, and this was actually built by the Klein Motor Car Corporation here in Richmond. And this is what prominent Richmond officials would drive in. One big spotlight up here. I guess what this would be the rumble seat back here. Klein car, it says. Oh, so here it is, yeah, the Klein Motor Corporation. It was founded in 1909 in York, Pennsylvania, moved to Richmond in 1911, produced about 6,000 cars before closing down 1924. Wow, okay. And this is only one of 2 surviving Klein cars. This photo is from 1912. All right, so this is where you put the fuel. Oh, and it says full, empty, little gauge right there, lets you know. So, yeah. You have to get out, walk around back, see how much fuel you had left. We're about to enter the North Gallery's Story of Virginia. And this is one of those dugout canoes Native Americans would use. Yeah, when a tree fell over, they would carve it out. They would kind of burn it to make it easier. They would use like oyster shells to carve it out, and that's their canoe. Okay, looks like arriving at Jamestown. There it is back there. Oh, we've got a baby right here. Several women, so this may not have been the first arrival. Those peacocks. All the famous European expeditions to the Americas. Okay, Christopher Newport, of course, came to Jamestown. Well, Christopher Columbus, yeah, he never actually set foot in what is now the United States. Yeah, he touched South America and part of, I guess that would have been Panama. And then, okay, Cortez right there, went over to Mexico. Verrazano charted out the East Coast. But pretty cool. Sir Walter Raleigh, one of Queen Elizabeth's favorites. and he helped found the Roanoke Island. He never went there, but Queen Elizabeth, England's most famous queen, the Virgin Queen, that's what Virginia's named after. Kind of a weird thing to name something after, but this is Jaquez, a Muncie, Delaware Indian. All decorated up. Going way back, the first peoples crossing the frozen tundra towards the end of the Ice Age, and they went on to become the first inhabitants of Virginia. It's kind of a famous picture. Some natives fishing in one of their dugout canoes. Looks like they've got a pretty good catch, a lot of fish in there, and they've got a fire going right in the middle of the wooden canoe. But this was drawn by Colonial Governor John White, one of the settlers at the famous lost colony of Roanoke. Yeah, he was a pretty good artist. Another of his drawings, wow, a sturgeon. It says it's between 10 and 13 foot in length. Pocahontas all done up on her visit over there to England. And yeah, she was presented as the princess to the great Chief Powhatan. Werowocomoco, headquarters of Chief Powhatan, and this is located on the north side of the York River in Gloucester County. Back inside of this ceremonial enclosure is a Yeehawken, and I don't know if this is where Powhatan lived or maybe it was used for religious purposes. Wow, that's pretty brutal. Reproduction of a skull that was found in Martin's Hundred from that 1622 Indian attack. Yeah, they killed between 1/4 and 1/3 of all the settlers. And this thing was discovered in 1978. All the settlements along the James that were attacked. Red is where there were murders. Green, they were just attacked. And the Martin's Hundred, where the skull was found, 78 people killed, and that wiped out that entire settlement. This is called Jack of Plate. It's quilted body armor. A bunch of these were sent from the Tower of London over here to the New World and worn by the settlers as they replanted the abandoned plantations. And it was ineffective against gunfire, but would protect against arrow shots. This is a really early printing press. Yeah, and these things changed the game. You can now get your message out to a wide audience. This seal is of a British king accepting the homage of a kneeling Native American chief. And it's to put Virginia on the fourth quartum, or dominion of the British realm, on par with England, France, and Ireland. Kind of Virginia's and Murderer's Row right here. Yeah, Patrick Henry, the voice. Thomas Jefferson, the pen. George Washington, the sword. Big Conestoga wagon right here. Kind of the tractor trailers of their time, I guess. Yeah, made to carry all your goods out west. Captain Meriwether Lewis right here. Bronze sculpture was done by John Jewell. And here's his dog, Seaman. Old banjo, uniquely American instrument with African origins.
and it's an adaptation of several West African instruments. Yeah, banjo in action right here. Person above him playing the fiddle. And the guy to his right is playing a pair of bones. Apologize, didn't get this guy's name, but obviously a boxer. Earned his freedom through winning boxing matches. And went on to move to London and fought over there. Well, I think we know what these were used for. It's pretty horrible right here. This is a whipping post from the Negro jail in Portsmouth. And this is the only surviving example of one in Virginia. Yeah, I wanted to show off this guy back here, Peter Francisco, the Virginia Giant. Stood 6'5", weighed 260 pounds. I remember reading about him when I was out there in Buckingham County. But hero of the American Revolution, fought in the 10th Virginia Infantry. And there's some lore around him. Supposedly at the Battle of Camden, where the Americans had left behind a valuable cannon that was stuck in the mud, he picked it up, put it on his shoulders, and carried it off. And yeah, to keep it out of the hands of the British. And a silk robe worn by Chief Justice John Marshall. And this used to be over at his house. I remember seeing it when I visited. It's here in Richmond. He was an early adopter, and the black robes, they symbolize dignity of the court, uniformity, and the rule of law. Yeah, here he is, John Marshall, born out there in Fauquier County. Surveyor's Transit, used to grid out the newly formed Washington, D.C. Sacagawea dollar. Thing was minted in 2000. And yeah, her with her son on her shoulder. Okay, moved on to the War of 1812. And pretty nice uniform right here. But yeah, just a collection of rifles, muskets, some cutlasses and swords down here. Dueling pistols right here, owned by John Randolph of Roanoke, about 1820. And pretty large dueling pistols. I don't think I've ever seen any this big, but he may have used these in his duel with Henry Clay. Pretty neat snuff box made from a ram's horn, owned by Nathaniel Fox. Bust of George Washington, and this is him resigning his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Army, 1783. And it was thought he would go on to be king, I guess the new King George, but instead he relinquished his power, just like the ancient Roman general Cincinnatus, and returned to his farm. $20-gallon stoneware water cooler out of Crow's Tavern in Allegheny County, 1856, and you'll see the crude new American Eagle. And here would be President Zachary Taylor, born in Orange County. Looks like George Washington, but this is actually John Tyler. It's his death mask, and it was broken by Union soldiers during the Civil War. Buckner and Jones chewing tobacco out of Lynchburg. Famous Zouave uniform from the Civil War. And I can never decide if these things are cool or goofy. But yeah, kind of strange putting on a costume to go and fight. Henry Box Brown, and if you guys aren't familiar, he's got a pretty incredible story. In March of 1849, he had himself packed into a crate and shipped to Philadelphia. So yeah, pretty wild. It was about a 20-hour journey. Yeah, pretty horrible massacre. The Nat Turner Revolt. 55 inhabitants, mostly women and children, were murdered. Pretty interesting helmet. And I'm wondering, is that horsehair? But it was worn by the Army Dragoons as they went after Nat Turner and his party. Oh, pretty neat. This is a Bowie knife that was taken from John Brown by Jeb Stuart out there at Harper's Ferry. Libby Prison here in Richmond, and a 3-building complex that was owned by Luther Libby. March of 1864, there were shortages and concerns about security, so a lot of the prisoners were transferred down to Georgia. Here's the key to it right here. Of course, Robert E. Lee, sculpted by Edward Valentine back there. And Valentine, famous sculptor here in Richmond, did the marble statue of Jefferson at the Jefferson Hotel. Stonewall Jackson out there in Lexington. Robert E. Lee that was at the state capitol. Also Hugh Mercer up there in Fredericksburg. 1919 plaster mold of Stonewall Jackson on top of Little Sorrel, and it was the model of what became the bronze statue that sat on Monument Avenue. Collection of reunion badges right here. That first one was New Orleans, and yeah, this is Richmond right here. An assortment of items right here, a bugle, a fife, wet plate camera. That would be a map of Bull Run. And down here it looks like we've got a telegraph and a relay. Well, this is what a mini ball could do. This is a reproduction of a skull that was found at the Battle of the Wilderness. And that femur right here, this is from Private David Doggett, 35th Virginia Cavalry. Uniform coat worn by Captain Richard H. Parker, assistant surgeon with the 32nd North Carolina Infantry. All right, here we've got the uniform of the Gray Ghost, John Mosby, commander of Mosby's Rangers, known for their elusive attacks on Union supply lines up there in Northern Virginia. And interesting, after the war, he became an attorney, a Republican, served under Ulysses S. Grant, and then eventually became the American consul over in Hong Kong. So, interesting. Here's a quadrant that was used on the CSS Virginia, the Ironclad. And it was used to calculate your position. It would measure the angles between the sun and the horizon. Confederate Springfield and bayonet. Section's called War on the Home Front. Loom over here. A shuttle right there. Used to make uniforms, I would imagine. Foot pedals down below. A small sewing kit right here, they would call a housewife. And yeah, soldiers carried these, used them to sew up buttons and whatnot on their uniform. Insignia of Brigadier General John Pegram. And here's his pocket watch. Pretty nice. Well, this was nice of him. A proclamation by the freed colored people of Richmond. Do not intend to celebrate the failure of the South. And you see lots of these in the South. Carpet bag, carried by the carpetbaggers. And they were resented Northerners who moved to the South for economic gain and to shape the new governments during Reconstruction. Pretty nice carriage hearse right here from the A.D. Price Funeral Establishment. I like the little tassels coming off the bottom. Yeah, after the Civil War, you now had sharecropping, basically slavery under a different name. This photo is from 1890. One of these old hand crank telephone magnetos, popular at the end of the 19th century. Trolley car 1240. And there are some pretty nice items inside. And right here, an electric fruit juicer from 1918. And yeah, the railway was now bringing up oranges from Florida. It looks like all the modern conveniences are coming onto the market, and we've got a toaster right here with a handle on it. Hair dryer. Looks like you could build up your biceps with this thing, but first mass marketed in the 1920s. Ribbon-air fan to the left, a lot safer than the metal blades. Both of these items are from 1930. Cigar store figure from 1924. Black features in Indian dress. And it's supposed to represent the African Americans that grew the tobacco and the Native Americans who introduced it. Wood tub on the right, circa 1890, was made by the Tariff Perfect Washer Company out of Portland, Michigan. And right here we've got the Water Witch, made by the Sears and Roebuck Company, 1936. You see it's got a ringer on it. This is the Richmond Fire Department's evacuation megaphone, 1872. Okay, so I've seen this statue now at several different locations. It's called Taking the Oath. It's showing Southerners after the war during Union occupation who had lost their homes, needed food. They had to take an oath of loyalty in order to receive rations, aid, also to reopen businesses and vote. This is Robert E. Lee's portable dispatch writing desk, and he used it to write letters promoting reconciliation between the North and the South. And the letters suggested that all should unite in honest efforts to obliterate the effects of war. The Virginia Cavaliers, paintings of all the big first families, and the Cavaliers were those that had stayed loyal to the crown during the English Civil War. And then King Charles II had granted them land afterward. Nice shell design on the elbow of this leg. Lowestoft porcelain. Silver spoon below was owned by Thomas Nelson, Yorktown. (1900s), Reconstruction had ended and the Industrial Revolution was starting to reach the South. This engine was built in Richmond by the American Locomotive Company. Some ethyl anti-knock gas discovered by General Motors scientists in 1921. Yeah, some good old leaded gas. Auger right here, 1946. Wow, yeah, some serious work right there. 1873, high-grade coal was discovered. Yeah, the southwest of Virginia started to boom. These ladies working away at a cigarette factory at the turn of the century. Gold medal awarded to D.B. Tennant and Company at the Calcutta International Exhibition. This watch was presented to William Junius Young for managing a Virginia tobacco factory in Australia. Interesting, never seen this, a 31-star United States flag. And it flew in Richmond, April of 1865. Wow, right after the Civil War. Women's Suffrage League here in Richmond, demonstrating outside of the state capitol. Their founder right here, Lila Maud Valentine. The Valentines were a big family here in Richmond. Uniform of Tuskegee Airman Clemenceau Givings, and he died March 1944. Suit here of Oliver Whitehill Sr., civil rights attorney, who helped abolish the legal concept of separate but equal. Fancy boots given to Virginia Governor Doug Wilder while giving a commencement address at New Mexico State University. He was the country's first African-American governor. Arlington National Cemetery right here. Jungle jacket of John Rasmussen and his dog Keats. 230,000 Virginians served in the Vietnam War, and that would be in combat and supporting roles. Philip Morris, a huge company here in Richmond. They actually started out 1847 over in London. It began producing cigarettes here in Richmond 1929. And the giant manufacturing plant that you see off Interstate 95, that opened in 1973. Yeah, General Patton and George C. Marshall both attended VMI. Coat here was worn by Richard Byrd, first man to fly over the South Pole, 1929, and reputed to be the first one to fly over the North Pole, 1926. And this jacket looks pretty warm. suit worn by CIA pilot Francis Gary Powers. Here he is with a Lockheed U-2F. Have no idea what this thing is. Has something to do with a satellite. A lot of interesting items on display. Yeah, some movies filmed here in Richmond. I know in Lincoln they use the state capitol as the U.S. Capitol.
All right, that wraps it up. That's it for the Virginia History Museum. A whole lot to see in there. Must have been there at least 3 hours. Could have stayed longer. But anyway, I'm hitting the road. As always, like and subscribe. See you on the next one.